Welcome back to Keeping Ag Real. This is a show which is built on the premise of getting to the facts and realities around food, fiber, fuel, and everyday items that we depend on. I appreciate you downloading this episode. I'm your hostess, Jenny Schweigert. I am a mom, wife, an agriculture consultant, a lambing apprentice, and dairy cattle enthusiast. Today's guest is from Minnesota. His name is Brian Randolph. He is one of the most courageous, inspirational, and positive people that I know. He has faced some incredible challenges over the last 10 years, including near full paralysis and 2 near-death experiences just last year. Unfortunately, his battles aren't over, and I'm hoping with this interview we can find someone that will help him continue his story. He has such a passion for agriculture, 4-H, and ag in the classroom, and gives a considerable amount of time back to helping people understand where their food, fuel, fiber, and everyday items come from. But before we start the interview, I want to note that Keeping Ag Real is part of the Farm and Rural Ag Network. You can visit www.farmruralag.com for more information. Let's join Brian.
They don't need a whole liver, obviously, because the other person wouldn't have a liver, but just a part of their liver.
Because the liver regenerates, right? That's
liver actually regenerates, yep. So it'll do the same. It'll grow to whatever size back in my body, and then also the person who donates to.
Isn't that incredible?
It's just amazing. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think they have to get their whole liver, and that's kind of why I write it in my posts and things, saying, and we have to give part of it. You don't have to give up your whole liver. So
that's just incredible. Let's jump into farming, and then we'll come back and really dive deeper into your need for a kidney donation and liver tissue donation.
Sure.
So you both grew up on farms, correct?
Yeah, so I can give you a little background on that. I was raised on a small hobby farm. We had beef cow-calf pairs. Towards the end of my high school years, I talked to my parents and I wanted me to get goats. And I was always very involved in 4-H. My older brothers, I've got 2 older brothers. They were in 4-H when I was growing up, so it's just kind of one of those things you do when you're the little guy. You say, okay, I'll go to the 4-H meetings. And I grew up in love with 4-H and was in it for all 10 years I could be. And I always showed beef calves, started off with beef calves and went up to the cow-calf project or steer or whatever it happened to be. We had a thing in our county, Rice County, Minnesota, where it was a project called Paradise in Porkland, where you got to show Hormel, which was a big company in Minnesota. They would let the 4-H, the county 4-H, use pigs the week of the fair. They'd just bring in a semi-load of however many pigs needed to come in. You know, people need pigs to show, and then you could work with that pig for a week, feed it, you're in charge of feeding it, watering it, all that stuff, washing it, and then you got to show it on Friday.
I love that.
It was a great project. Yeah, there's a lot of great projects out there now around our area where we're a little bit more metro than we ever used to be. So there's like the Horse with Horse project, there's Adventures in Dairyland where you get to show a dairy calf or cow or whatever. So that was a great deal. I got to show pigs, showed goats, just really grew up loving that part of 4-H life and also the general projects. But that really kind of sparked my love for agriculture. We live on a nice hobby farm now in rural Randolph, Minnesota, which is also my last name. You can make jokes about that if you want to. But so was the Randolph from Randolph.
How did that happen? Did you choose?
So, no, my wife was from Randolph, Minnesota, which is not very far from Northfield. It's only like 10 miles from Northfield, where I grew up. We started dating in oh boy, I'm going to get in trouble here probably, 04, 05, somewhere in there. And, she was from Randolph, so it just so happened she already had a place that she was living in that her dad used to own. His farmhand used to live here, and then after he didn't need the farmhand or whatever happened, he started renting out the place, and the people renting it were kind of trashing it the inside of the house and things. So finally I said, Carla, do you want to buy the place? Jumped at the situation and bought it. So she moved to Randolph first. She lived in Randolph, and then she married in Randolph. So, yeah, that's kind of how it worked out.
So you didn't like line up ladies from Randolph?
No. And it's funny, I just grew up not very far from Randolph, and people are like, oh, is your grandpa, is he the mayor of Randolph? I'm like, no, all my relatives are from Michigan.
Well,
so.
I mean, I guess that would be kind of a natural assumption that some people might connect to.
So sometimes I kind of go with it and play around with the story and just have fun. But, yeah. So Carla grew up a place about a half mile to the east of here where her home farm was. Currently where her brother now lives with his wife that just got married in December, and her parents ended up actually moving to Northfield after their whole life on the farm. So that's quite the move. But on the farm where she grew up, they had raised Holstein steers, and they would buy a group of 40 calves, give or take a couple, from a sale barn or either somebody who had calves for sale or whatever. Came in as bull calves, maybe like a day old. Hopefully, they're always told the calves got colostrum. That's, usually they would, but
sometimes you don't
know. You never know when you buy them from a sale barn or something.
Right.
Yep. But they would raise them up from baby calves all the way up to steers that would get harvested at Packer land or somewhere over in Wisconsin they had contract with, or they'd sell them to. So it was all confinement. They started on milk. They always had grain available, and then, eventually they got to be big boys. But so she always helped out with that, kind of had a love for calves and things. And then she, younger years, fell in love with sheep. I'm not sure how, but she talked her dad into letting her buy a couple sheep. And her sheep numbers grew, evidently, through the years. Sheep, not a huge amount, but a decent amount for a cattle farmer.
Right.
She's always had a huge love of sheep. Any picture you see of her as a kid, she's got a lamb she's holding on to, or a sheep or something like that around. So she's just had a great passion for that. Now her brother farms, and they have about 1,000 total acres. That kind of brings me to our farm now, where she had to have a couple of sheep, so she got those. She had a very spoiled sheep that probably would have been better behaved than most dogs for a while. And she likes to spoil her sheep. We've now got about 4 ewes that we don't breed our ewes just because she's always busy at work, and I can't really get into the pen to help them if they need any help with lambing or anything like that. And we've also got a miniature donkey, hence our name of our farm is our Little Ass Farm.
I'm glad you threw that in there.
He's kind of like our little mascot. He's very loud, talks a lot.
He's so cute.
He is cute, but he's a little ass. That's about all there is to it. On our farm, we've got the sheep. We've got one goat that gets in more trouble than anybody else. In the spring through fall, we raise broiler chickens for meat. We sell them to kind of neighbors, friends, and then whoever else. I've gotten quite a big customer list, and we can only raise about 30 meat chickens at a time. We just don't have that much space for chickens, and I've already got 2 groups sold out, and we haven't even got them on our farm yet. So
wow.
Business is booming, I guess. I wish we had more room, but 30 is about right. I mean, it's not a lot of work. You just kind of give them their feed and water, and they're happy.
And are you able to get out there and help, or is that all Carla's?
Yep. We've got a small old garage. We put a pen in there, and I can get in there and get them food and water. I try to stay out of the pen as much as just so I don't get manure in my wheels and things, but I can feed them and get them water and do things like that. Put sawdust down. We raise chicks in like large water tanks. We put heat lamps over them when they first get here, and then couple weeks later, we move them over to their pen. 8 weeks, and they're ready for market. So it's a pretty quick process. Besides that, we usually get a few laying hens, and it's just kind of a fun little project for me. I can't get out and work with the sheep and stuff like that as much as I'd like. Always wanted to get some beef cow-calf pairs, but I just can't do as much with chores, and Carl doesn't have the time. So maybe someday I'll get my wish, and we'll get a cow-calf pair or two to raise. I've always just loved having beef cows around and stuff like that. But that's kind of our farm situation. Get a large yard and things like that. A lot of work to do this spring. So there's always something to do around the farm. And I love to garden as well. I've got a raised bed garden where I do all vegetables, things like that. So we stay busy in the summer.
And I think throughout the entire year, because you do a lot of outreach and going to schools and talking with kids about farming. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I love to do ag in the classroom through Farm Bureau, which I'm a member of our county Farm Bureau, state, national, whatever. And then I'm also on the state promotion education committee for Farm Bureau, Minnesota Farm Bureau. So we do a lot of things with ag in the classroom through that. Also, I'm always willing to help out with anything teaching kids about agriculture because it's such an important thing. A lot of kids just have no way to get on a farm. Most of their grandparents, like when I grew up, my grandparents all had huge connections to the farm. My one grandpa was a dairy farmer all his life. It's just really neat to be able to go out and teach kids. They want to learn, especially at younger ages than older ages. But so I'm always doing that. Also volunteering with 4-H right now in our Dakota County 4-H, and we have a group called the Ag Rep, and it's a new program where we're letting 8th through the end of 4-H years. We have a meeting about once a month, and then we're going to do different activities, and we're really going to go out and kind of do outreach and help either kids in their club learn about agriculture, because a lot of times 4-H isn't all agriculture. I mean, it's just not. There's so many other kids out there now. So maybe teaching the kids in the club about doing different little lesson plans with them, or we're going to school in Apple Valley, Minnesota, which is a pretty large town south of the Twin Cities. Going to go talk to them about some different 3rd through 5th graders and think about agriculture. So that's a big passion of mine, is being able to share and help out that way. Also, always just trying to, I don't know if I help or hinder, but I try to share good stories on Facebook and Twitter of misconceptions kind of out there in agriculture. You know, even people today who live in town or things like that, they just don't have a connection to the farm, and they hear things and they see things and they say, oh my gosh, well, I can't eat that, or, you know, I shouldn't drink milk or whatever else because it's bad for me. And I really just kind of try my best to help them learn and see new things from a different aspect. So I was more into blogging before. I haven't done much blogging lately just because life's been busy.
Sure. You do a lot.
I do a lot through volunteering and things. I wish I could work full time but I can't right now. So until then, I just stay busy. So.
Well, I know I am beyond thankful that we were paired up at a Christmas exchange.
That's right. You know.
Well, not just getting to know you and connecting with you and knowing your story, but now I know what a hot dish is. Because my Christmas present...
It's not a casserole. It's not a casserole. If you're in Minnesota, it's a hot dish. Just make sure you get that. I want to clarify to all of your listeners, it's a hot dish.
We'll agree to disagree.
You have a book that says hot dish on
I know.
It, so it must be true. So, want to put that out there. Not tater tot casserole, tater tot hot dish.
It's the best cookbook. We love it. It's just...
That's great. I thought, well, if this doesn't say Minnesota, I don't know what does. So, yeah, It was pretty good.
Right.
Pretty good book.
Well, thank you. It really is a great gift, and we do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and we're going to dive into the need for a kidney and the liver tissue. Start, I guess, at the beginning and tell us why it is you're in need of a kidney and partial liver tissue.
Sure. This all started back in 2007. My wife and I got married. Then, at the end of 2008, I came down with a very rare syndrome called Guillain-Barré syndrome. People can look it up, but GBS is the easiest way to, because I can't even spell Guillain-Barré syndrome, but
right.
Basically it's where your body, instead of your body system attacking what's making me sick, I had a sinus infection at that time. This was like November of 2008. Instead of attacking what's making you sick, it actually attacks your nervous system. So in December of 2008, I got a lot weaker, just wasn't feeling the same, had a hard time getting up steps and things. And finally, the day after Christmas, I said, okay, I have to go to the emergency room. Something is it's just not right. Went to a ER in our town, and they didn't know what was wrong with me, so they ended up sending me by ambulance down to St. Mary's Hospital in Rochester, which is part of the Mayo Clinic. Got down there, they did a bunch of tests, and found out in the middle of the night that I had something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which we had never heard of before. So we, of course, searched Google or whatever, and
which can be
tried
scary.
to figure out what it was. Yeah, and this is, like 2 or 3 in the morning when we found this out, so my wife and I are trying to scramble. And then by the next morning, I woke up and I couldn't move my legs anymore.
Wow.
I told the doctors and nurses who came in, I said, I can't feel my legs and I can't move them. And they said, no, you probably just slept wrong or something like that. I said, no, it feels like my legs are on pins and needles and I can't move them. They did a quick lumbar puncture and some other tests and said, yeah, your Guillain-Barré syndrome is affecting you even more now, and I ended up being paralyzed up to my chest by the time the Guillain-Barré had spread enough. And so eventually they put me on some IV treatment, IVIG, and that kind of slowed down the movement of the GBS, because some people, when they get Guillain-Barré syndrome, goes all the way up to the eyelids, and they have to go on a ventilator and things like that. So I was lucky, unlucky, it only went up to my chest. But the IVIG treatments that they gave me and some other things actually probably led to my kidney problems.
Oh, okay.
It's such a strong medicine that it actually affected my kidneys in a bad way. In one way, it saved me, but in another way, it hurt my body as well. Plus, I also I'm a type 2 diabetic. It's all diet controlled now, but that didn't help with the kidney disease either. It might have been a slow onset, but the treatment might have just kind of bumped it along enough. So eventually, in 2013, I had to go on to dialysis after my kidneys slowly just said, nope, that's it.
Okay, let's back up just for a second. So what kind of medicine is it that has caused your kidney then to...
It's called IVIG.
What does that mean?
It's a special kind of medicine that can slow down the progression of the Guillain-Barré syndrome. I think they use it also for other diseases as well. And it was a pretty heavy dosage. It was like they did, I think, 3 or 4 days of treatment with it. I found out how much the dose cost, but it was a lot of money. It was probably like $10,000 per dose.
That's incredible.
Outrageous. It was a pretty strong drug, and it did a lot of good and bad.
So it damaged your kidneys, and then you were on dialysis.
Right.
And
2013 started dialysis. Through that time of being paralyzed and going through the IVIG, I had to stay down at St. Mary's Hospital. They put me through physical and occupational therapy. Meanwhile, I really couldn't move very much. And it was, December of 2008, I got sick. And by February of 2009, so just a few months later, I could finally, it was a pretty big deal when I could wiggle my legs a little bit. It was a real big deal, actually, because that was amazing. And slowly but surely, parts of my lower body started being able to slowly move and things like that.
So you were improving.
Yeah, my body had gone through a lot of stress, obviously, and laying in bed all the time took away all my muscle tone and things like that. That was not helpful. There's a lot of therapy in February. After February, I ended up moving back closer to home. Our house was not at all handicap equipped. Farmhouse wasn't handicap equipped for a large power chair, which I was in by that time, in a large wheelchair, and things like that. Had to move into a retirement home and start doing some pretty big-time therapy at that place. Also just had to have a lot of cares and things done, which I couldn't get done at home, obviously.
Sure.
Kind of gets back to the kidney and liver after all this, and there is a lot of ups and downs, a lot of problems. End up getting sores on both of my heels and my feet, and eventually I had to have one leg amputated because the sore got so bad on my left side, and then a couple of years later, the same thing happened on the right because I couldn't feel my heels, didn't have the same sensation in my feet as I did before. That they just kind of had that pins and needles type feeling like when your foot falls asleep.
Right.
So I ended up having both legs removed below the knee, so I'm a amputee now. So it just added a lot more to the stress, and now there's always been a kind of a background ever since I got Guillain-Barré that something is not quite right about your liver, but they couldn't quite figure out what was happening. They thought it might have been fatty liver disease, which people might not know a lot about that. The acronym for it is NASH. And with the fatty liver disease, I'm a big guy, always have been. And so your liver can get some excess fat coating around it, which doesn't allow it to work as well.
I see.
Finally, last year, I kept on having these episodes where my eyes would go really blurry and other problems.
Scary.
And we just couldn't figure out what was going on. Eventually, like by January of last year, it got bad enough where I think it was sometime that late winter, I actually got so sick from the liver not working right that I actually went into a coma. It wasn't a deep coma, but it was just kind of the body just wasn't able to work properly.
And how long did that last?
Sometimes a day, up to maybe 2 days. It just kind of depended on basically what happened is my ammonia level in my body from the liver, my liver wasn't able to process everything, and the ammonia in my body would get so high of a level, like a normal ammonia level could be anywhere from like maybe 20, it really depends on the person, but anywhere from like 20 to 100. Mine at one time got all the way up to 300.
Oh my goodness.
They give you a medicine that basically makes you go to the bathroom.
Like a diuretic.
Yeah, it cleans out the ammonia in your body. It kind of grabs onto that part of whatever's making you have that high ammonia. And
did you have encephalopia? Is that how you say it?
I did, yep.
And that's just when your brain can't function because there's so much ammonia?
Right, yep. So I had that in, I think it was February. It was the first time that I got so sick. That one was pretty bad because it is a lot of big words, but something like that. You said it first. So
encephalopia.
Encephalopia.
There you go.
Something like that. What you said.
Yeah.
But so the first time, scared the dickens out of my wife, of course.
That's what I was just going to ask is how is she doing with all this?
How is she feeling? I mean, there's been a lot of stress. I'm just going to put this out there. We got married in October of 07, and I got sick in 08. So we had 1 year of me not having health problems, basically. And so she's been an absolute trooper, awesome. There's not enough words to say it. And she pushed me harder than any person has. She's always stuck up for me. I just can't say enough good things about her. A lot of people might not have stuck with me. They're stuck with a person through all these problems and things I've had. And we kind of joke about it now, but when we got married, you always say, in sickness and health. She always says, no, I was kind of hoping more for the health part, not the sickness. But You kind of took that to a real high standard. So she is a trooper. I'm kind of the last straw was when I went into that coma last February, and then it happened again in May as well. The time it happened in May was not as bad, but they've got me on the right medicines now. I have to take a pill twice a day for the encephalopathy.
Very good.
And they also have me on that diuretic, which basically makes you go to the bathroom. So it's part of my life now until I can find a liver and kidney. And then, so through all this, I've tried getting transplant lists quite a few times, different, like the U of M, St. Mary's I did back in when I first started dialysis. At that time, I was a little bit too big, overweight for the program. They just couldn't accept me. And so I finally got enough weight off, and the liver problems added to the situation. And last year I was accepted as a person that's, can be a possible transplant down at Mayo Clinic in Rochester. So that was a huge task, a lot of work and a lot of appointments. But now we're on the right step. We just have to find the right people to give up part of their body, which either regenerates or you only really need one working kidney.
Right.
So, if anybody wants to share, that'd be great. So.
Right. I can't imagine the pressure. And
pressure as far as
waiting and
yeah, it's a lot. It's not like I can just wait on a deceased donor as far as, especially the liver, because they have something called the MELD score, which takes into effect a lot of different things going on in your blood or certain levels of your blood. Usually you have to be above a 6 to be on the list to get a liver. And I'm at a 22 or somewhere in there. But people who are actually getting deceased livers are usually up in the 30s. I don't want to get that high because most people who get deceased liver are probably in comas.
Right.
And I don't want to be in that shape.
No.
So that's why I'm really striving to find a living donor liver. I think that's going to be my biggest challenge, because with the kidney, even if I can find somebody who might not be a match kidney-wise, we've got that paired exchange program where, yes, I might have to wait a little bit till to find that match. It might be a month or two, but
right.
At least there's that option out there. But with the liver, there's not that option at this time. They just don't have enough facts and research done to do anything like that yet. So I keep on. I try not to be too annoying and ask too much, but I do use Facebook and Twitter and this last, I just decided the other day I was going to put a tweet out there and I put something on Facebook too, and I've gotten more retweets and replies and things like that from both posts that I'm amazed by it. So
how do you stay so positive through all of this?
Well, I've always had the kind of frame of mind, and, you have tough days. Now, I'll be honest with you. There's days where I'd like to pull my hair out, which is losing anyways. So there's days where you get upset and you get down. But since the start, I've always had that optimistic frame of mind, and I don't know how I got that, but I just figure, you're better off laughing than crying.
Yeah.
I mean, you can laugh until you cry. That's okay. But I actually like doing that every once in a while. But no, I don't know. I don't know how I got it, but I just said, you know what? There's people out there, as bad as my situation might be, there's people out there with cancer. There's people out there dying, from deadly diseases and things like that. Yeah, I have it bad. Yeah, I can't just get up and walk around like you used to be able to, and that was really tough right away. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, you know what? Just because I've had a rough path the last 10 years or so, it doesn't mean that I still can't look at life glass half full instead of empty. And, I nobody wants to see me down and frumpy. And there's a lot of people that say, I don't know how you do it. And I just said, this is just who I am. I don't really try to be positive. It's just part of who I am, I guess. And nobody wants to be around a negative person. And really, my wife has helped me out with that too. She knows when to kick me in the butt, literally and figuratively. And to say, they'll feel bad for you, but just, it's kind of time to just, okay, have your woe is me moment, but pick it up, and you're not fun to hang out with when you're mopey and sad and things like that. So I'm not going to put up with it. So you're going to be get yourself to a happy place. So.
Well, she sounds amazing.
She is amazing. Absolutely amazing. She's something else. And so.
Definitely your rock.
Yeah, she is definitely the rock. My family has been awesome. My parents, in-laws, I've got two older brothers who would do anything for me if needed, and also friends, even friends, we've never met face-to-face, but
right.
I consider you a great person for, I'm starting to tear up now a little bit, for sharing my story and things like that. It's just been amazing, all the positive feedback I've had and people who are always there for me. I've got a good group of good friends I grew up with in Northfield that we're still pretty good friends. We may not see each other as much, but, they're always willing to come out and help or do whatever is needed. So that's just been very helpful. So,
how can somebody that is able to come and help, how do they best get in contact with you?
They can find me on Twitter. My handle, whatever, is at Randolph, Randolph, and then 725. You can also search for me on Facebook. Just put in my name. You should be able to find me in Minnesota if that helps search or anything like that. Also, they could email me, Randolph725@gmail.com. And yeah, just if you have any questions, so you can contact me any of those ways. Also, I did put this link out there last night. It's to the Mayo Clinic Living Donor Transplant page, and there's a questionnaire on there, health questionnaire, and basically that does some pre-screening to see, kind of the first step to the whole program.
Excellent, and I'll add that into the show notes so people can find it that way. I'm glad that you have that resource there.
Yeah, they pretty much saved my life. I mean, they've really got me in a pretty good place right now. Haven't had any problems with that for a year now, knock on wood, knocking on my head. But I just gotta hope things keep going well until I can find those donors.
And again, we're trying to find someone who is a match for a liver tissue donation, as well as
and
kidney.
And even if so, each person has two kidneys. They begin giving up just the one. Even if you're not a match to me as far as the kidney, they will put, if you're willing to give up a kidney or whoever out there, they will put us in the program. Your data or your certain specifics about your kidney will be shared with the rest of the paired network, and eventually they might be able to do a swap with a person who's got the right match for me. With the liver, basically to start off, it's pretty quick and painless. If you turn out to be what looks like a good match, they'll keep on having you do some different tests and things. They want to make sure you're healthy enough to give up your parts of your body too. I mean, so they're out there for both of us, protecting us. So.
Sure. Well, if anyone is out there that is able and willing to get tested, please get in contact with Brian, and also head to the show notes where you can go and complete the questionnaire from the Mayo Clinic. Well, we are about out of time, so I just want to say thank you for always being such a positive person. And, for me, when I'm not feeling good because of the Crohn's disease, I think about you and I think about what you're going through, and it definitely, gives me the motivation to buck up.
Yeah.
This could be worse. And
yep, that's what I always say. As bad as it might seem, it could be worse.
right. Well, I thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Jen, for having me on and spurring my story out, and I really appreciate it. You've done so much, and can't thank you enough.
No problem. No problem at all. Hopefully we will find someone that is a match, and we can get you back going and have more than just one really, really good year with Carla. You two definitely.
That would be awesome, and we'll have a big party when I finally get all through this.
And can
it seems
I come?
like a good excuse to have a big old party. You can come, you bet.
I'll even bring you a hot dish.
We'll have hot dish. Not casserole, we'll have hot dish.
Okay.